The Deputy Chair of the Conservative Party, James Cleverly MP. This is a government that's lost it, isn't it? You're censured for contempt of Parliament a couple of days ago. Now the man who was seen fit to be Foreign Secretary for 2 years is having to grovel to Parliament for not following the rules.
Boris isn't in government. He left government.
No, he was for 2 years. You obviously thought he was fit to be Foreign Secretary, and now he's behaving like this.
Well, I worked with Boris for best part of 10 years, 8 years of which whilst he was Mayor of London, and he did a very, very good job at that. Things like this, it's an oversight. These things are boring
it's more
and bureaucratic.
Than twice the national average wage that he hasn't declared.
These things are boring and bureaucratic to register it, but they are incredibly important. He should have done it. He'll make an apology to the House.
I mean, yeah, but he was quite happy to blazon his opinions on the front of the Telegraph. We all knew he was doing it. Surely someone who's been Foreign Secretary, been a senior minister, who the government has felt fit to appoint, should be above this sort of behaviour.
You're talking to the wrong guy, Adam. You need to talk to Boris about that.
No, I'm not. I'm talking about a government which you represent as a party chairman. He was appointed for 2 years. Was he a fit person to be Foreign Secretary for 2 years?
Yes, because he was also a fit person to be Mayor of London. Did a very, very good job there. This is an oversight. I'm not here to defend him. He made a mistake. He'll apologise. But trying somehow to wrap this up with what's going on.
Well, what about contempt of Parliament? I mean, that's another thing that the government's driven into.
Well, the government made it very, very clear why it feels it's important that privileged legal advice remains private. That's a foundation stone of British law. I still think it was an error on the part of Keir Starmer to break that convention. It is so very important that governments can take discreet advice from their legal advisors, just like with businesses, just like with individuals.
But the point about it is you fashioned your own noose by allowing the resolution through that evidence should be released. And again, it comes back to governmental competence. You didn't know what you're doing and you tripped yourself up.
No, that's not the case at all. It's parliamentary numbers. It was quite clear that the Labour Party and other parties were desperate to see that legal advice. It's now in the public domain, and actually what we've seen is that Geoffrey Cox at the dispatch box laid out exactly what people's concerns were about that legal advice. What's actually happened, what Keir Starmer has done, is broken a really important foundation stone of good government, which is that governments can take legal advice safe in the knowledge that it's completely discreet, and governments should be held to account for their decisions, not based on not held to account for legal advice that they've received. It's a really important point.
Now
boring but important.
Let's shift to what the Prime Minister's been saying this morning. What's new about the fact that MPs will have a decision whether to extend the transition period or not?
Well, I don't know if that's finalised yet. I've been hearing reports that that's been
You didn't listen to the Prime Minister on the radio this morning?
No, I was travelling in. Unfortunately, I was on a train. I wasn't able to.
Well, we managed it. There are mobile phones, you know.
I know, but this is not the only thing happening at the moment, Adam. But what my understanding is that that's one of the things that's being considered. Obviously, what the Prime Minister's focused on is winning the vote, persuading enough of parliamentary colleagues that this is the right way forward. I believe it's the right way forward. It's a deal that delivers the promises made at the Brexit referendum. So we leave the EU, and we leave the EU on time, which is a really important point.
Yeah, but I'm trying to understand whether this is a genuine concession, a shift in policy, or simply the Prime Minister standing firm on the withdrawal agreement she's already announced.
Well, the Prime Minister's made it. The Prime Minister's made it clear that the withdrawal agreement is the culmination of months and months and months of negotiations. It's not the kind of thing that's going to be easily or significantly amendable. But obviously, what the Prime Minister is also doing is exploring with colleagues what their concerns are, what might calm some of their worries, what might give them the opportunity to support this deal, which gets us out of the EU, delivers on what we promised during the referendum, and does so whilst protecting the integrity of the United Kingdom.
And as things stand, where do you think the mood of your parliamentary party is? Is there any chance at all you're going to get this through on Tuesday?
Well, there's always a chance. There's always a chance. Look, I mean, there's no point in being unrealistic about this. Lots of colleagues have said they're uncomfortable with the proposal. The Prime Minister, the Chief Whip, the government are trying to win people over who have concerns, explain to them. Geoffrey Cox is doing that. He's done that in the dispatch box. And that's what we will keep doing. because ultimately this is a deal that delivers on the referendum. We need to remind people what they campaigned on at the time.
What about the party? You're a party chair. You go out, you get opinion from members and Conservative voters. Do you think they're minded to support this deal?
They are not massively happy with the deal, but then again, I don't think anyone's massively happy with the deal. That's the nature of negotiated positions. They are very, very supportive of the Prime Minister. They want to see us, actually what they want to see us talk more about is the things that we've been also doing in government, like bringing unemployment down and bringing employment up, wage growth, educational standards, more money for the NHS.
But you've got to get past this hurdle. And are they going to back their leader and Prime Minister on this, do you think? The ordinary Tories?
The ordinary members and activists I speak to up and down the country admire the Prime Minister massively. They are really supportive of her fortitude. They want Brexit delivered. And this deal delivers Brexit.
Now, the other sort of story in the wind this morning, I can tell you probably won't have time to see it, the front page of the Evening Standard.
Right. I've not seen that one yet.
No, exactly. But what it's saying is Cabinet Ministers are pressuring the Prime Minister to pull the deal, to not have a vote on Tuesday. Is there any chance of that?
I've not heard anything about that. I know some people have been talking about that. Programme motion has been voted on. I'm not sure whether that's a credible option, and I've not heard anything about that from number 10 or the Prime Minister.
Would it be better to do that than suffer a heavy defeat, do you think?
Well, it's one of those things that we know, as it stands at the moment, what the mood of the House is. We're trying to win people over. What we're trying to do is we're trying to remind people that this deal delivers Brexit. That's what we'll do. What the Prime Minister does in terms of timings of votes, that's up to her.
And what do you say to your colleagues, and there are a growing number of them, who say, look, we vote this down, we get hard Brexit. Hard Brexit wouldn't be so bad, and that would be the clean break that people voted for.
The point I make to them is that there are people in the Labour Party who have expressly, they've expressed their desire to either delay Brexit, bring in a second referendum, or stop Brexit altogether. They're voting down this deal because they believe it's the best way to stop Brexit. So people who think it's going to be a WTO Brexit and people who believe it's going to stop Brexit, they cannot both be right.
So it's a gamble not worth taking.
Right. And I don't think it's a gamble worth taking, which is why I've been supporting the deal, because one of the things I do know is this deal delivers what I campaigned on, bringing back control of our borders, our laws, our money, protecting the integrity of the United Kingdom, and making sure businesses know what's going on so they can plan for the future.
Except that backstop doesn't, does it? I mean,
no, it does.
Well, it gives the European Union an indefinite veto on our trade policy.
Well, we can have the big extended debate.
Yeah.
We can summarise the 5 days of debate this morning. Yeah. But the point is, the EU have said they don't like the backstop. Yeah. It breaks one of their cardinal rules that you can't separate the customs union from immigration control and money. So they don't like it. We don't like it. None of us want to be in it. And so what we should be focusing on is what delivers for Brexit, both for the UK, gives businesses certainty, but also works for the EU.
And just finally, we're going to hear from the Chancellor of the Exchequer opening the third day of the debate today. Yeah. Now, he's on record, basically, as saying all the options of leaving the European Union, including with this deal, in economic terms, I'm not talking about the advantages of taking back control of the rest, but in economic terms, are going to leave the country worse off than had it remained. Do you agree with that?
Well, he's the maths
expert. That's what he said.
He's the maths expert. But you look at the figures. Look at the figures. Even on the most pessimistic projections, and trust me, the Treasury are black belts in pessimism. Even on the most pessimistic, it is less than 1/4% per year over the course of a decade. That's the most pessimistic. And as you say, actually, a lot of people have said that they are more passionate about taking back control of immigration, taking back control of our laws, taking back control of our money, because they want it spent on UK domestic priorities, like the NHS, and we've already committed to doing that.